In this screencast, I'm going to give a quick overview on the flavors of online learning, using an ice cream metaphor to categorize some of the types of online learning that happen. The first category I'd like to talk about is formal learning. This would be things like online courses. These are LMSs, learning management systems, with modules generally. Moodle and Canvas are two popular ones. There's another category of online courses that some might argue are not quite formal, but I would say they are. They're called MOOCs, M-O-O-C, or Massive Open Online Courses. I consider them to be formal in that they're generally presentations and there are assessments and they are regulated in some way, where you do get some kind of certificate at the end for completion and passing. The last one in the formal category I'd like to bring up is digital badging, also known as micro-credentialing. If you're not aware of these already, these are credentials that you get. They look like just simple JPEGs, but within them are metadata that show what did you do to get the badge, who gave you the badge, does it expire, these type of things. So it's more than just a little JPEG image. You have to do something to earn that badge. Formal online courses can be placed on a continuum from the one end of the spectrum being 100% online, in the middle a mix of online and face-to-face, and then more of a traditional type classroom where you might just have some resources and maybe just a few activities online. I would call those web enhanced. In any case, a formal online course has common elements. These are tracking, that I can tell who's in the class, what they've been doing in the class, that there are assessments of some sort, and at the end, you get some kind of certificate, a grade, a credit for completing the course. The second category, or flavor, if we go with the ice cream metaphor, is informal courses. Google Apps are one thing that could be used for an informal course. We can have all these collaborative documents where we come in and we learn together, but there's no grade. There may be no other outcome that comes from that. Instead, it's just collaborative. And one of the things I love about Google Docs that I want to remind people is we can get away from printing, right? Another part of informal learning happens in online learning communities. For the Google world, these are the Google Plus communities. But there are other places where you can find online learning communities. Facebook might be an example of something like that. Other social communities where we are interacting online. Twitter is another way that we could have an online interaction. We can follow people, we can interact with people, we can actually group things. We can also do something that's called a personal learning network and building a personal learning network, whereas Twitter could be one of those places that could feed it. Another online site that's great for building your personal learning network, or PLN, is Scoopit. I recommend you take a look at it. Now, somewhere in between the formal and informal learning are other things that I would consider things like ed camps. Ed camps are unconferences where people get together and learn things that they want to learn on that particular day. There's no set speakers, no set topics until people get there and choose what the topics are going to be. So definitely informal, but there is some formality involved because we're going to have to do some kind of tracking, some organization to make that happen. So I recommend you look into ed camps. Another one, and this is more personalized. Personalized learning could be taken care of in a site like Lynda, where you decide what you want to learn, and it's certainly informal. There's no necessarily signing up for a course. You can also hop around courses. You don't have to do things chronologically or in a set order. But it does have a little bit of a formal piece to it in that at the end of the course, you can collect a certificate. But it is highly personalized. So now talking more about the delivery systems. There's two categories here of synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous, as the name implies, is a real-time experience for the learners. Most common example of this, and I'm sure you've probably taken or participated in one, is a webinar. This is a screenshot from Adobe Connect, one of my favorite webinar platforms. Another not so tech-heavy, live, real-time interaction is when we hop into a phone conference call, and we're collaborating that way using just audio, maybe some other things. Another synchronous example is when you can do some live streaming. A new app that's doing this that I recommend you look into is called Periscope, and it is a mobile app, and you can stream from your web phone to the world. So the last category I'm going to talk about today are asynchronous, and of course, running with the ice cream metaphor, we're talking about things that happen later time or over a period of time and not live. The most common online asynchronous interaction are discussion boards. They've been happening for a long time. I mean, they started out with actually just listservs and these online discussion boards, but now you see them everywhere. There's apps for them, but you can also see them in online courses. It's one of the core places where discourse takes place in an online course. Of course, we could also be doing some screencasts. You're watching one right now. We could develop some self-paced courses or modules. This is an example that you could do with something called Captivate. Podcasts also fit into the asynchronous category. Podcasts could also be an example of asynchronous online learning, although I define podcasts as something that you can subscribe to and comes out on a regular basis. Finally, there's online resources that exist over time. It can be built over time. Wikis are examples of this. And today, you could actually use a Google Doc as a wiki. So if you'd like to learn more, I'll have these links on my blog. My name is Paul Iwancio, and you can search for my blog on WordPress. Thanks.